What's going on, guys? So today we're looking at an SOG knife. We have a SOG Vision XR. When the XR line hit the market, I was very interested. They basically kind of rehauled or revamped like their main core knife models, right? All these knives that we are familiar with, they've kind of just changed them and upgraded them. And I do think it's an upgrade across the board. I've gotten a couple of these and I've kind of tried to stagger using them because I use all kinds of knives in between and stuff. But lately, in the last month or two, I've been focusing a little bit more on this Vision, and that's why I'm doing a video on it, because it's fresh in my mind. But yeah, the XR line, basically they're taking these old knives, they're changing the look a little bit, upgrading the steel for the most part. This one is rocking a CTS XHP steel, which is just fantastic. They do a cryo treatment on it, all right, for hardening. And I've had an excellent experience with it. Now, as you can see, this one has a combo edge Tanto style blade. I really avoid combo edges. I don't mind serrations, but I've said this before multiple times. It's mostly like on cold steel knives because they offer so many fully serrated blades, but every company, you know, offers fully, well, I shouldn't say every, but a lot of them do offer full serrations. If you're gonna go serrated, in my opinion, you go full serrated, right? The combo edge blade, it was supposed to be, you know, kind of the middle ground there. Like, most of the time you're using a plain edge blade, but maybe every now and again you get something that's extra thick or fibrous that you're trying to cut. It's nice to have a little run of serrations. But I always felt like, you know, if you're gonna have serrations, you want a long run of it, right? So it's just one of those things. It's total preference. However, I will say, as far as from a marketing standpoint, combo edge knives look scary. That's it. They just look aggressive. And a lot of guys, they buy knives based on how they look. You know, and women as well. It's like, oh, it's a cool looking knife. How many times have you thought that? You know, be honest, there's a lot of cool looking knives. So you go, yeah, you know, and by the way, you guys may know a little bit about blade steels and materials and things like that. A lot of people don't. You know, the knife market in general, it's just like, oh yeah, that's a cool looking knife. I'm gonna get it. And then they get it and either it works or it doesn't work, right? As far as Tantos, same thing. I'd prefer probably, you know, drop point, clip point. There's a lot of different styles I take over a Tanto, but I still use them. You know, I still have no issues with them. It's just in sharpening, this would be a little bit harder to sharpen. Some people have issues with Tanto blades. I always tell people, just as a tip, is treat it as two different blades. You have one angle, you know, one straight edge from here to here, and then you have one straight edge from here to here. But now you also run into the issue of sharpening serrations. Another reason why a lot of people just plain avoid it. I don't know how to sharpen serrations, so I'm not going to get a serrated knife. Yeah, it's a simple thought. I do know how to sharpen serrations, but I can tell you that with all my tools and all my experience, I can sharpen them so they cut stuff, but I can never get like a razor's edge on a serrated portion of a knife. I have all kinds of tapered stones, and I have stones that have cutouts built into them, you know, so you can sharpen serrations, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I can get a usable edge on it, but nothing like I can do on a plain edge blade. So just some food for thought. Anyway, what really stood out for this knife is just the ease of opening. There's just a bunch of ways to open this knife with the XR lock. And that's the other thing too, is this kind of, you know, it's their, I want to say version of an axis lock, but it's not. It is a different thing. It's just, it has the same mechanical feel where you're actually manipulating something, okay, right here in the knife. It just slides back. Now you can do this one-handed. It's very easy to move. I would say it's probably, it has less spring tension, in my opinion, than an axis lock, so it is actually even easier to use than an axis lock. Plus, as we know, an axis lock is a little, you know, post, it's cylindrical. This actually has a switch style, okay? I'm gonna let that focus. So, there we go. I don't know why it's having a problem focusing. There we go, okay. So you can see, obviously, as you push up, there's ridges there. Same thing, pushing down, there's ridges. So it grabs the finger very, very easily to manipulate it, okay, whether you're pulling from the back or the front, all right? So besides that, you also have the ability to, you know, flick it open and closed. And if you notice, there's also a flipper. So essentially, there's three different ways to open it right off the bat, okay? You can use the ambidextrous thumb stud. You can just flick it open, right? Just pull down the thumb here to close it. You could literally just pull down the thumb and open it, just like you would flick an axis lock open. Or you can come back here and use the flipper. All right, you can use both fingers, one finger, left hand, right hand. It's really, really versatile. All right, and speaking of left hand, right hand, you can see it is, you know, ready to swap pocket clips as well. So this comes tip up, right side carry, but you can make it lefty. It is truly ambidextrous. Okay, so if you swap that clip, this side looks just like that side. This side functions just like that side. So being fully ambidextrous for at least all the lefties out there, that's very much appreciated by a lot of people. In fact, I've gotten a lot of feedback over the years, and although there's lefties that get used to liner locks and frame locks, they do prefer things like axis locks and lockbacks and things of that nature because it is ambidextrous. So just something to think about. The ease of use on this knife is ridiculous. It is smooth. It does lock up perfect every single time. There is no blade play at all in this. All right. So yeah, the design's really cool. The ergonomics are great. The price is expensive. The XR line overall I found was more expensive than the original models, at least the ones that I've had so far. This sells for 150 bucks, and that's no drop in the bucket. That's definitely some coinage for a knife. You'd have to, really want the knife to obviously fork over that much money. But I do think for a $150 price tag that they're delivering at least on performance and quality. It just would come down to whether you like the design and, maybe you like the brand. I know there's people who have favorite brands. So if you're a SOG person, it's worth looking into. If you just like knives in general, I still think it's worth looking into. But there's a lot of knives out there, millions and millions of knives. And why you'd pick this one over something else, I don't know. That's really up to you. A lot of it comes down to how you like how it looks. This one's very tactical looking, being all black on black. As far as like coatings and stuff, again, a preference. I stay away from combo edges. I stay away from tanto blades. I stay away from coatings. Those are my preferences personally, but I use them all. There's no issue with it at all. The only thing with me for coatings, and some coatings are definitely better than others, but it doesn't matter what you have on there. It's going to show rub marks. It is eventually going to scratch. It's not a big deal for some people. It's a huge deal for other people. Something to consider. But I've never, ever scoffed at honest wear on a knife. I see a knife that's super beat up. I think most of us look at it and go, wow, cool. Someone uses that knife. You know what I mean? No one's looking at it thinking, oh, it's ugly because there's a scratch. But I don't know. I think that's pretty rare to not like those knives. Now, as far as resale goes, that's a totally different, ball of wax in my opinion, because when you're buying or trading for a used knife, generally speaking, you want to see less use on it. You know what I mean? So there's big old gouges and scratches everywhere. Maybe it'll affect its value in that sense. Anyway, I'm rambling on here, and I took the box out to show you. So, because there's tons of information on these boxes. I do like these quite a bit. There's a little cutout in the corner so you can slide it out. This is just, it's particularly nice for gift giving, all right? Because the knife inside, is in like a presentation position here. There we go. So, you open it up, it's all open. It's just a nice presentation. Happen to like that. Doesn't really mean much for most people, but anyway, let me go ahead and zoom here. You can read this information if you want. All right. Flip it over. You can see it has all the specs on here as well, or at least information, and then the specs on the bottom. So you can read all that good stuff. And I open the box up here, take this plastic insert out. Take a look at this paperwork. Also has some information on here on the XR lock, okay, and how it works and stuff. Just in case you didn't know, as well as swapping the pocket clip, not on this particular model, but this is generic insert, I believe, is in all of their XR line. Obviously, we have a simple pocket clip that's on the side here, just has one screw. So, get all that packaging out of the way. You can focus on the knife a little bit here. So, yeah, as far as like, this one compared to maybe the original Vision, the original one had a VG10 blade, which is still fantastic. I would never, look down upon VG10. However, the CTS XHP is an upgrade, in my opinion, for sure. I don't know anyone who would disagree with that. But VG10 is still fantastic. The original one had the arc lock, all right, if you guys remember. And I think that sold for about $100. So you're talking another 50 bucks for the XR lock, the whole revision on the design. Again, I totally think it's worth it. But value is definitely subjective. This is just what it costs, I always recommend to people as well. I don't know if I mention this in a lot of videos, but like if you want to try a knife and it's expensive, try it used. It's kind of like cars. Some people just buy used cars because they save so much money. They don't need to have it new. Knives are no different. You know what I'm saying? The only thing there is, obviously you're not going to get like a factory edge on there, but you could save some big bucks. This used might be 100 bucks instead of 150. You might get one for $75. I guess it just depends on who's selling it. But yeah, there's no shame at all in buying used knives to save money. There's so many cool knives out there. People want to try so many knives, but you can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford to buy knives all the time. You guys know that. I do a ton of trading. But when I do buy knives, I don't necessarily have to have it new either. In some cases, I specifically, source out something that's new just because I want to review it. That's different. If you don't review things, it doesn't really matter. But that's important to me in some aspects. Certain knives, I'm like, yeah, I want to have it new. I want to know what the edge is like out of the box. I want to know that there's no problems. If I get one used, maybe something broke, and then I'm like, this thing's broken, and so that's a different case. That's a pretty specific thing. Most people don't review stuff, you know what I mean? But yeah, you can definitely save some money in buying used. So coming in close, you can see the textured handle scales. It is on both sides. It is very comfortable. It's nice. It's somewhere in the middle there. Glass being 1 and sandpaper, being 10. I would say you're somewhere in the 3 or 4 range. It's not aggressive, but it does offer a little something just in case your hands are sweaty, or you got some kind of liquid on there or something. It would definitely help, which is nice. So while we're close, let's take a look at our markings here. Studies and Observations Group, SOG, if you didn't know. Vision XR, Cryo CTS XHP, and nothing on the reverse. All right. I do kind of like the design as well, is that these, the corners are kind of knocked off. It's not really rounded. The most comfortable knives I've ever had have always had like super, super rounded edges on the scales, but it is nice kind of do an angle cut there. There's just no like harsh edges at all, except for obviously the jimping. The back spacer here has jimping as well. If I back it up a second, you want to hold this in reverse grip or something, your thumb would actually facilitate some grip like this, or of course you can put your thumb on top, which is probably the best, especially if you're stabbing. I don't know why you'd have a reverse grip if you weren't. Most people just don't hold things like this to cut them. Makes it a little bit awkward. But yeah, pretty cool. Very slick looking hardware as well. If you look at the pivot screw, all right, you can see it's the same on the front as it is on the back. Kind of a bullseye look there. It's pretty nice. 2 little standoffs on the back again for that little spacer. Now looking on the back, you can see it is a partially closed design just with that back spacer, but most of it's open. And the advantage of that obviously is lint and dust and dirt and stuff, whatever you have in your pocket, day-to-day carry. You don't have to worry about that getting too built up with stuff. But if you happen to have a little can of air or compressed air or whatever, you can blow that out. Also worth noting, might be hard to see, but there is steel liners, full steel liners on both sides of this knife, but it's black on black on black. Let's see if I zoom in, if that helps at all. Kind of. Let's see. Hold on, let me just back out. I do have a flashlight because I'm prepared. All right. So, hold on. Pop this guy out. All right. Get a better look in here. Might be a little more helpful. I got to zoom in some more. All right, so I put my hand in the background so it doesn't focus on the tail. There we go. You can kind of see it in there. I don't know if you can catch the edges, but there are full steel liners, which is very nice. Let's use a higher mode. Right? Options are good. There we go. That's a little bit better. You can kind of see where the liners end before the end of the scales. All right, but yeah, that is actually kind of a big deal to have steel lined scales, because I mean, it's pretty simple. Move that off to the side. Pretty simple design stuff, but it really adds strength. And what's most important is right around the pivot. So if you're one of those people that just hardcore uses their knives, if you do any kind of twisting action, and you just have G10, which G10, by the way, is extremely strong. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But there's always a chance that, especially if you're prying with things, that it could fail or break at the scales. You know what I'm saying? When you have those steel liners, it does make a difference. It makes for a more robust knife. Of course, it ends up weighing a little bit more because of that, but it's almost always worth it, in my opinion anyway. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. SOG Vision XR, definitely an upgrade to the original. I do love the original still. It's awesome. I don't believe I have one of mine from back in the day. If you do, comment down below and let everyone know what you think of yours. But I'm definitely impressed by the newer version here. Going back to pocket clip again real quick, as I mentioned before, it is swappable to the other side. I do like the style of pocket clip, but it does carry low. So the people out there who love their deep conceal knife, not so much on this one. They definitely could have raised it. I don't know why they didn't. The placement seems like it's a little off, right? Doesn't it seem like, hey, why don't they just put it up here? I mean, the screw itself could have been, in front of the actual screw for the body, and then the actual clip would ride almost even with the top, right? It would be deep concealed clip, but they just chose not to. I don't know why. I don't work for SOG, so I don't know where these decisions come from. So, you know, carrying this, the thing's looking more like that, sticking up. Now, you know, there's always pros and cons to that. Most people like a deep concealed clip, but some people might just like the accessibility to it. All right, there's more knife sticking up. It's just easier to grab. So you get a full, you know, pinch grip on that, pulling out of the pocket. And actually carrying and using this knife, it didn't really bother me either way. I didn't care they were sticking up. I generally don't like knives that are like really sticking out of the pocket. I mean, nothing carries like that, but you know what I'm saying. In some other designs, this might have bothered me a little bit, but I had no issues with it here. But vice versa, I've had deep conceal knives that I've actually not struggled to get out of the pocket, but it was just a little annoying because it was deep concealed. Sometimes I like a little knife to grab, it's just easier. I want to grab a knife, I want to grab a knife. Generally speaking, let's say my hand's in my pocket here, even if it is deep concealed or in this position, it doesn't really matter because you dip the thumb into the pocket and you're kind of grabbing the knife with the pant material, but as you're pulling out, your pant material is sliding out of your hand. You know, it's not really a big deal. I know a lot of people probably don't put this much thought into how they retrieve their pocket knife. But it's not really a concern, but it's definitely worth pointing out. So if you're a deep conceal person, you might want to, you know, consider this. All right, it's going to stick up a little bit for sure. So there you go, guys. Those are my opinions on the SOG Vision XR. Let me know down in the comment section if you have this knife. What do you think of yours? What are some things you like about it, things you don't like about it? If you bought one or traded for one, would you do it again? You know? So hopefully you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.